If you have found yourself working a lot of hours and getting burned out, then pay special attention today. My guest for today's show has got some great insight and a heartfelt story that's going to give you hope and give you some ideas of how to turn things around. Plus, we're going to learn a really great trick to help you maximize your marketing budget. So let me say hi. It's Melanie Benson here, America's leading authority on optimum performance. And I want to invite you to grab a pen, some paper, or get ready to take some good notes on your computer, because this series is designed to help you learn firsthand from people just like you, entrepreneurs, business owners, and thought leaders, on what you need to do to take your business to the next level and make the business you have work. Let's not even just say 10 times. Let's go for 100 times better. So let me introduce one of my most favorite people in the world, someone who I've known for quite a few years here, Michele DeKinder-Smith. Now, Michelle's president of Linkage Research, where she helps big name brands develop the right products and marketing messages to help their business grow. And you can find out all about Michele at linkageresearch.com. But let me share something just kind of on the personal side. We'll go to the heart side for a second. And that is, Michele and I met many years ago, and I think you actually found me from a teleclass that I did for somebody. I don't even remember the story now, but we ended up connecting many, many years ago, and I've just watched this amazing woman take these huge leaps, make really courageous, brave decisions, and take a business that was really overwhelming her and make huge changes in very simple ways that I think helped you, I'll say this for you, helped you really find what was super important to you about being an entrepreneur. So I'm so excited to have you here today. It's nice to see your face, and welcome, Michele.
Same to you, Melanie. I'm really glad to be here. You know how much I have loved and respected your work for all these years. So it's fantastic to have a chance to be interviewed by you.
Yay. And I don't know if you guys can see this, but behind Michele is this beautiful skyline of Chicago. And I think you said there's even a lake in the background there, right?
Lake Michigan is right behind me, and Millennium Park, for anybody who knows it, is over my right shoulder.
It's such a beautiful, is this your home office?
Both.
Yeah. I think one of the things that's so helpful for us as entrepreneurs, especially if we work out of the home, is having something beautiful to look at. And I love that view. I've been to Chicago many times, and I love the combination of the architecture and the water. It's just really fun.
Yeah, it's an amazing city. I moved here a couple of years ago, and I haven't looked back. I just love it and live it up every chance I get.
Cool. So let's talk a little bit about you and your business. First of all, tell us, how long have you been in business?
I was thinking about this morning, because every time I answer this question, I almost make a mistake because it seems like I'm getting so much older, right? But it's been 16 years now.
And tell us a little bit about your business and what you do.
Well, the business, it's called Linkage Research and Consulting, and we are specialists in the area of marketing. We help big brands, major brands that you've probably purchased at the home improvement store, at the grocery store, at the drugstore. We help these brands identify what's the next product that they should launch based on what their customers want and what their customers need, and then what's the right target audience for that product, and what's the message that will help that audience really connect with their brand.
And knowing what I know about you, this is such a powerful piece of the marketing world, because many people just leap into ideas and they don't really think things through, and then they're wondering why all their hard work and their budget isn't paying off. So this is such a really powerful piece of the marketing process. But I'm curious, why did you decide to get into this? What was the pull or the draw for you?
Well, I know this is true for many entrepreneurs, but it was almost an accident for me when I started. I was like 29, 30 years old, and I was very, very frustrated working in the corporate environment. I had a boss who was a credit taker, if anyone has ever experienced that, and I felt somewhat stifled in my ability to help my clients the way I really thought was the right way. So one day I just got really frustrated, and I walked into my office and I quit my job. And by the next morning I had a company, right? Because I just slapped together a logo in paint and printed up some letterhead, and away I went.
That's great. That's kind of how I got into it, but for different reasons. Not wanting to be controlled by someone else, but I know we both share that corporate background. And so what did you find was the most important way you could take your, what we might call your zone of genius, that thing that you do that's magic, and how did you translate that to solving a problem for the people, the clients that you most wanted to work with?
Well, it's funny because a lot of people will think that research is, it's statistics, it's heavily analytical, it's a lot of number crunching, but I think that genius area or whatever, what you called it for me is really about compassion. Mm-hmm. And so what has made our business be very successful with our clients is that we take data, but instead of giving them numbers and analysis, we really help them translate that into having compassion and empathy for their customer. Mm-hmm. And when that bridge is built, then all of a sudden they get it. They can empathize and understand how to build their brain in a way that the customer really wants instead of just inventing something and shoving it out there and hoping that it sticks. So I think that's really our point of difference, is that we translate data into human compassion.
Yeah, and I want to dig into this for just a second because you focus on bigger businesses, but if someone was a smaller business or an entrepreneur, what's a tip you might give them or an insight from what you do for bigger businesses around market research that you think would help them make better decisions in the products and the offerings that they launch?
I love that you asked that because small business owners are doing research every day. They just don't realize it. Mm-hmm. I talked a little bit about empathy. That to me is the key. And a huge part of empathy is just listening. So whenever you have a customer or a potential customer in your environment, really, really listen to them. So often we hear someone talking and we're thinking in our own minds, what am I going to say to reply to that? Right? What do I have to say to overcome that objection? And, how can I position myself in this person's mind? And while that's important from a marketing perspective, from the perspective of understanding your customer, just putting aside your ego, buttoning your lip, and listening to what people are really saying or their problems will help you get clear in your own mind. And then your messages will resonate. So
it's almost releasing the desire to be reactionary and to kind of always figure out what's happening next and practicing the art. And I think this is really a leader's art of being a good listener and using that as a skill, as a tool to help you make decisions how you're going to move forward to serve your customers better. Absolutely. Well, I like this because I think what we oftentimes forget is we don't have to have it all figured out. And sometimes the most powerful thing is to switch gears and stop pushing and forcing and driving and really just take a step back and check in. And no matter what size business we have, if we're not really listening, not even just to our customers, but to ourselves and that inner voice inside that's trying to talk to us, we'll often miss the direction, the intuition, or the guidance that's going to take us to that bigger next step for ourselves. Yeah, I think it's essential for entrepreneurs especially. But what I see is that many solo entrepreneurs, they're not listening to their intention or their intuition as much because they're so worried about making it. And the bigger companies have a harder time listening because there's so many people involved in the organization. But when you can hit that sweet spot of really understanding and then using your own needs as a business and what your strategic objectives are and bring those together, that's when magic happens. Ah, well said. I totally agree with you, by the way. When I guide entrepreneurs and business owners through that process of understanding their target audience and finding their sweet spot, that's such a big part of it. And if we're busy and overwhelmed and exhausted and doing everything ourselves, it's very tough to have the patience for that process. And this is a good point, I think, to kind of check in with you and maybe even pull the curtains back a little bit. And you're an industry leader, you are someone who has a very successful business, but it wasn't always as successful as it is now. And I'm wondering, what was one of the biggest challenges that you faced as an entrepreneur? Well, yeah, I think we're all faced with challenges every day, right? The nature changes over time. But if I think about
what was the linchpin that really took a business that was successful but struggling into a business that's really successful and creating a lifestyle that I love and that my team loves? It really is, the challenge was work-life balance and thinking I had to do it all myself. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of business owners had that. I think this was even going on at the time that I met you, Melanie.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I'm sure
that was a big theme.
You helped me with it.
You weren't the only one either. You know, I think it's important. Like, you weren't the only one in the group we were working with and in the work we were doing. And today, you know, you're not the only one that faces that challenge.
No, I know I'm not. And the funny thing is, because you're working alone and you're working tons of hours, you don't even realize that there are so many other people out there like you. Mm-hmm. It just feels like aloneness. Yeah. So at that time, go ahead.
Well, go ahead. I was just acknowledging you.
At that time, when you and I met, you know, I was financially reasonably successful, but I was probably consistently working 80 plus hours a week. And the concept of life balance was completely out the window. I was in that very overwhelmed place. And so one of the critical things that you taught me was how to implement that process to help me start putting a team into place.
Let's walk everybody through, if you don't mind, a couple of the critical steps of that, because I think you hit the nail on the head, and I think this is an area where maybe people hold back is they know where they need to go with it, or they hear, oh, you need to build a team, you need to get help. But there's this huge chasm, right, between where you are now and then where you need to be with that. And if you're busy and you've got a lot on your plate and you're working that many hours, it can be kind of daunting to think about taking those steps. What were some things that really helped you make the leap from doing it all yourself and having the team that liberated you and allowed you to have more lifestyle?
Well, I think, you know, first of all, it is a process. It's not like it happened perfectly, right? I didn't just follow this perfect straight line to end up where I am.
No magic pill?
It is, there's a process, but there's also experience gained along the way. I think for me, what was the tipping point in terms of finally saying, okay, I have to hire someone, was a complete and total overwhelm to the point that I was physically and emotionally breaking down, right? I mean, I'm strong, so it took a long time to get there. So there was that complete and total overwhelm. There was the advice of a really smart woman, i.e. you, that I was looking for a better way, you know, and that support of someone is so important in having the courage to take that step. And then I think it just comes down to, you know, plan your best and get out there and give it your best shot. Recognize that, as I said, it's a process. It might not be perfect, but you're going to learn a whole lot, which makes you that much better and smarter for as you continue growing.
So do you remember back then? I want to talk about back then, and then maybe let's talk about today, because I know you've taken your team to a whole another level since we worked together and put you through the Build Your Dream Team process. What was the first person you hired?
The very first person I hired actually didn't turn out too great.
Oh, okay.
And I can explain why. She was meant to be a mini-me, if you will. She was someone who was very experienced, and that's what I thought I needed at the time because I was so overwhelmed, was someone who could replicate myself. That relationship ended up not working out because I didn't follow the process. Because the correct process says understand, you know, what's that person's job, what are the characteristics they need to have, even what is the personality they need to have. And instead of that, I hired someone on the basis of what was chemistry. So
you did the one night date method of hiring.
I had my objectives written down on paper, but I convinced myself that she was that when she really wasn't. So then it was a rewind, right? A little hiatus of, oh my gosh, what's happened and can I really do this? And the next person I hired was a personal assistant who physically worked in my office, which was also a change. And, you know, I had an opportunity to really, because I was with her every day, to really see whether we were a match or not. And we ended up working together for about 4 years.
That's great. So first step, which oftentimes happens for people trying to do it out of your intuition or things that you've kind of put together along the way, you did the right thing and hired someone, but it fell apart a little bit because you didn't actually use the Build Your Dream Team process, which guides you through all the steps of really uncovering what do you really need.
Right.
And I remember taking you through that process and you hiring the personal assistant and finding someone who could be your balance, who could be someone who took the things off your plate that were really overwhelming you and taking a lot of time and energy away from doing the things that made you money and or also in your zone of genius. And I think I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think when we're looking at how to scale our business and grow exponentially, but we're hiring the wrong people, it just ends up being more work. And I think that's where a big mistake a lot of people make is along the way.
I completely agree. And when you're in that place of overwhelm, instead, the tendency and the mistake that I made that first go around was, let me just take it all off my plate and give it all to someone else. But as a business owner, if you're never going to hire someone who cares about it as much as you do. So instead, you can start smaller with somebody who can take off those non-critical tasks, those admin tasks, things of that nature. As you said, it's not my genius work. Get all of that stuff off the desk.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up. So you have a bigger team now, and you've found yourself in a whole nother level of lifestyle and really scaled your business, and it's probably, from what you've told me, about 3 to 5 times more financially successful than it was when we started.
Yeah.
What was the game changer that helped you achieve that?
I think the game changer really was becoming comfortable implementing the process over and over. Because as I experienced the journey, the first step is get the right people, right? But once you have the right people, the next step is, are they clear on what needs to happen? And do they have what they need to make it happen, right? So I spent a lot of time in that area. And that was kind of my comfort zone, making sure that people kind of knew what the project objective was or whatever. But the final step that really skyrocketed our growth was learning to let go. And to be able to say, okay, they have everything they need. I'm willing to hold them accountable, but I'm willing to put them forward. They were working behind me. They were working for me, but they never spoke to clients. So the day that I decided, no, they need to work directly with clients and let me be in the background, I'm the senior one standing back here who's behind it all, but not necessarily in the day-to-day. That was when we really skyrocketed forward. Business-wise, financially, and as a team, because the trust grew so much.
And you just described something that I call it it's the accelerator. In the beginning, like you said, we free ourselves up and we focus on getting tasks and activities done. But once you learn to really hand over ownership and put people in roles that truly liberate you to focus on the things you do best, it's just a massive accelerator in your business revenues and your time freedom, and it changes the game completely. So I don't know that everybody understands that until they do that, because here's why: you stop being the bottleneck. Because when you've got your hands on everything, right, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of effort. And when you transition ownership from you to other people, you're no longer the decision and person who can be with the clients. Then you have really transitioned out of the bottleneck. And it sounds like you've done that.
How many times have you talked to me about the bottleneck?
Bottleneck!
For years, I was stuck in that place. But yes, I have transitioned out of that. The buck still stops here. You know what I mean? If
Always
there's a problem, I'm the one who has to figure out how to solve it. But to allow your team to move forward frees you up for more growth, frees you up to focus on the things you're best at, and frees you up for the lifestyle. So having gone through all of that, I'm now running a multi-million-dollar business, and I work, in weeks when I'm home, I'm probably working 30 hours a week. It's easy, right? It's easy, and it's fun, because because I don't have to answer every single call and every single email, and I don't have that constant stress.
Yeah, great. I love it. So I think every business owner hits a moment in time where their mindset or their attitude completely shifts, and I call them like an aha moment or like a mindset shift moment, when it may be a quote that you hear, it could be something that you say to yourself as a mantra, but it's something that allows you to kind of stay in touch with the most important thing in your business. Do you have one for you?
I do. It's pretty philosophical. I actually wrote one down that really embodies where I'm at now. And it is, I am not that which has happened to me. I am what I choose to become.
Ooh, say that again. I really like that.
I am not that which has happened to me. I am what I choose to become.
I love that quote.
My experience in business is that sometimes you can get bogged down in the mistakes and the errors and the struggles and the challenges. And that's all you can see. And instead of, we didn't get that project because we were too expensive or we weren't fast enough or we had some kind of a problem, we can choose to look forward and say, all right, we've learned from that. What do we want to be now? What do we want to do now? And to me, that's been so powerful because focusing on problems is not helpful in moving forward.
I totally agree. I think it's almost like there's a level of wisdom as a leader that we step into when we let go of focusing on problems and we shift gears into being solution seekers, or, we focus on the opportunities inside of everything. So I love that you shared that.
Thank you.
I guess along these same lines too do you think along the way there was like a learning that has been significant to you having the level of success that you have now? And maybe it's something that surprised you or it caught you off guard and you didn't realize how important it was until you learned it.
Yeah, I think this was actually one of the things that led to putting clients first. Someone once said to me that your clients will never respect you until you learn to say no. And that's the process that I have been going through and I continue to go through, is how do I connect with the things that I really want to do? And how do I graciously and gracefully say no to the things that I don't want to do? And it's everything from, where it started was take a vacation. Like I haven't taken a vacation in years. And I think the first experience of that information was telling my clients, you know what, I'm going on a 2-week vacation. And during that time, I will be gone and you will not be able to reach me. And I thought, I just thought the sky was going to fall down, right? But I left a couple of key team members there and it all went beautifully.
I have to make sure a couple of my clients listen to this, Michelle.
Going through that process, I was so terrified. But coming through on the back end, I realized my ability to do that for myself makes me better. It also does help people respect me more. And it frees me up to do the genius work, as you said, and to just enjoy my life.
Yeah. It's amazing to me how many times we sacrifice our life and our lifestyle for people that, probably aren't going to be the significant people in our lives overall. So I think that's really sage advice. Do you think there's anything that you wish you would have done sooner that somebody listening in today would benefit from because they could hear your perspective on that?
I think there's two things. If I had hired a team sooner, I would have had, possibly a decade less stress, which is a lot. At least 5 years of less stress and more money. I think the other one, though, is this idea of learning to say no and how to pick and choose the things that I want to work on. In the past couple months, I've walked away from 2 major opportunities because it just wasn't fun. I could have made a lot of money even, but it was going to be nothing but a hassle, lots of long hours, and not a category or a brand I was interested in. So that wisdom came to me late. If that had come to me earlier, I would have had, again, less stress and more joy for several years.
Yeah, so I heard really two critical things. One was being willing to leverage your time and energy sooner means you are going to be able to have less stress, but also I would imagine there was an opportunity cost in waiting as long as you did. And also not knowing how to do it well cost you a lot of time and money and hiring the wrong person out of the gate. So I think that's a very important lesson that we've all learned along the way. And the second one I heard, and I think this is huge for all kinds of people, it's a conversation around boundaries.
Yes.
And it's hard to have boundaries if you don't know what your sweet spot is and you don't know where your genius really is. And I think taking the time as a leader and an entrepreneur to know that is so significant.
No doubt. No doubt. To me, that is the key. That's the learning that I've been working on for so long. And I would say, even in the past year, I'm so growing in that arena. And it's such a joy to be able to be relaxed because you're not accepting and doing things that aren't really what your heart desires.
All right, last big question. And this one might be a little throwing you for a loop, but I think it's a really fun question to ask, and that is, what would you say is your go-to strategy when you want to build your business or ramp things up? Maybe even about getting new clients or sales. Go-to
strategy. First of all, I guess it's kind of a process for me. I'm a process girl. First of all, where can I free myself up?
Okay.
Secondly, I just look around and I say, what are the brands that I'm excited about? What are the brands that I want to work on? What are the companies that I respect? And then figure out a strategy to reach out to them.
Do you have one that works? Because I know a lot of people who are going to listen to this do work with corporations and big companies. Do you have a way, and without giving away all your secret sauce, but what's one way that opens those doors for you?
I think the best, most powerful way is to reach out to other people you know.
So that word of mouth and asking for referrals and asking other people to help open doors for you. I think people forget that works. We're oftentimes afraid to ask.
I think it's forget, but I think it's also fear.
Good
that
point.
If I ask for help, I'm showing a weakness, or I don't want to bother somebody.
Yeah.
I used to have that problem, right? But now I've got a core group of clients that I love working with. And I think nothing of sending them an email and saying, look, I've got room in my calendar for one more client. Here are 3 brands I'm interested in working with. Do you know anybody over there? That's the single best way.
Yeah, I love that. So Michele, how can people find out more about you and the work you're doing in the world?
Well, I think the obvious place to go would be to go to our website, which is at www.linkage, the word like connecting two things, LANKAGE research.com. And that would be a starting place. And, my email contact information, phone is all there. So
great. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today and being so open about your process. I think as leaders and as people who have learned so much about business over the years, I think it's so powerful to share these nuggets and the truth about what it really takes to grow and scale a business.
Well, thank you very much. It's been an honor for me, and I totally agree with you that it's the stories through which we grow, right? It's seeing other people who've done it and been there and recognizing it's possible for yourself.
Yeah. Well, Michele DeKinder-Smith, everyone, let's give her some big nods, some woohoos. Let's share something that you learned today. Be sure to look down below and tell us what's one takeaway, an aha, something that you can put into action from today's session. Let's all share the wisdom. And, if you got something great out of today, share it with some friends. We'd love to have your help supporting getting this sage wisdom out to other entrepreneurs and business owners. So, all right, until next week, we'll see you guys soon. Melanie, Benson, Strick.